Hi, this is Steph with Belladonna Dyes, and today we're going to make a center wigwag. Start by smoothing out all the wrinkles in your shirt, and then I'm going to center the shirt using the sleeve inside the other sleeve technique. So I'm using a washable marker to mark out my center, and then I'm going to tuck one sleeve inside the other sleeve and line up all the seams in the underarm and along the shoulder. And then I find those little marks that I made and I give them a pinch, and then I shake the shirt out and I lay it out flat on the table and I smooth it out. And then I bring it's either the top side or the bottom side, and I fold it over and I shake it out some more, and I just keep smoothing it until everything looks nice and lined up and all the wrinkles are gone. And you know, I'm not gonna lie, you guys have heard me say this before, this is my least favorite step of tie-dyeing, is centering the shirts. I'm quite picky, and so I want it to be as perfect as possible. So it takes me a long time, sometimes 10 minutes, and then some shirts center really easy and I can get it done in a minute. There is no rhyme or reason to it. So don't beat yourself up if it takes a long time to do. It takes me a long time too. You have to keep in mind, I have all of this sped up and fast forward, otherwise we'd be here all day. At this point, I think it's as good as I'm going to get it. So now moving on to the next step, I'm going to use a washable marker and a piece of kite string, and I'm going to mark out my pattern. And there is no rhyme or reason to this. I just decide where I want the center of the pattern to be, and I go out a little ways, and then I just pull the string, mark it again, and then I make my final mark. Next, I'm going to pleat along the lines I just drew on, trying to make those lines as straight as possible. Now, one thing with the wigwags, you want to have smaller pleats. The reason for that is for saturation issues. Also, it kind of makes the pattern stand out a little bit better. But if you have tall pleats, I find it a lot harder to get good saturation, and then you're going to have more white spots, and the white is undesirable on these. I mean, if you're going to make like a true wigwag type, you know, like what the cool guys are making, you don't want to have any white on it unless you're purposely like putting white into the pattern. So the smaller the pleats, the better. And that's why I started all the way out on the shirt, because if I would have started in the center, as I worked my way out, the pleats would become taller and taller and taller. This way, they're going to be small at the start, and as I work my way in, they're going to become smaller and smaller. I hope that makes sense. So for this one, I'm going to secure it by using kite string, but if you don't have kite string, you can use rubber bands. You can use any string that you have. You know, kite string works really good. Sometimes I use a nylon string for beading, and I have links for it down below in the description box, so you can go ahead and check that out. I get the kite string over at Ace Hardware. It's right next to the Little Caesars Pizza that's close to my house, and I love their breadsticks, you guys. It was my first job in high school, and they let us have free crazy bread on our shift, and I just love it. You would think that I would hate it because I worked there and I got it all the time, but I don't. If it's cooked right, it's so good. Okay, but I digress. So the kite string. So you just want to secure your first line and then keep pleating things up. And try not to get your lines all wonky. You want those lines to stay as straight as possible. And these pleats are so small, I'm really having a hard time. So I broke out the tweezers. It seems like every time I pull on one pleat to try to make it, it undoes the one next to it. That's how tiny these pleats are. So just do the best you can. But as you see, my line is not perfectly straight, but it's as close as I think I'm going to be able to get it. So I just continue on. Now, as you get towards the tip, it's going to be almost impossible to pleat those up. I don't do these often enough, so my pleating skills aren't, so totally on point. The reality is that they're just eventually all going to run into each other into the center. So just do the very best that you can. This is just so much work and explains why I don't make them very often, because it's not fun. That's why I like to make spirals. I can whip one of those out in, 10 minutes and I'm done and I get to play in the die. Because for those of you that follow along, my favorite part is just playing in the die. I wish somebody could come over and do all my pleating, so all I had to do was add dye and ice and just get on with it. So I just continue to work with it, and as you see, the more I work with it, eventually that line straightens up. But I wasn't having fun, and my back was starting to kill me. I do remember that for this. And I also have to tell you, I started this so late. I think it was like 8 o'clock, and I didn't finish it till 10:30. And that's probably not a good idea, because if you've been up all day working and doing other things to start a project that late that's this labor intensive, well, for me anyways, it just makes it even that much more difficult. So right there was a little edit in the footage. I had to walk away from this thing. I got the first part of it secure, and I was just so frustrated and like superly mentally exhausted that I had to walk away from the table, take a breather. I think I went and snacked on some chips or something. I don't know. I just needed to get away from this thing because I wasn't having fun. And at the end of every tutorial, I say, remember, have fun tie-dyeing. And there's a reason why I say that. Because if I'm not having fun, usually the project is not going to turn out the way that I want it to. There's an energy to all of this, and I can't explain it, but for me anyways, like, I need to feel it, I want to enjoy it, I have to be having fun with it, and when I am, usually things turn out great. If I'm forcing it, usually not so much. Are any of you like that? Please let me know in the comments, because I'm curious if I'm, alone in this. I don't think so. I think many of you probably share the same feeling. So back here at the end, the pleats are beginning to get a little bit tall, and as you remember, I said smaller the pleats, the better. So I'm adding some secondary pleats, and it's going really fast. I know it's kind of hard to see, but I'm really trying hard to keep all of the pleats the same height. Also for, dyeing purposes, if you've got a high point and a low point, your dye is going to want to slant that direction. So the whole goal for this is to try to keep your pleats as close to the same size as possible. Now, I know that it's not always easy, but you want to try. Like if you're going to take your time to try to do a wigwag, you want to try to do it right, because tying it up is the foundation for your project. So if you get that done right, usually when adding the dye, things are going to go all right. Now, not always, but usually. So just take your time, make sure you get it done the best that you can. And I can tell you, because I remember this project very well, I get so sloppy with my kite string at the end, because I've been tying this now for an hour, which I know for some guys who tie things, like tying for an hour is no big deal. But like I said, I'm used to making spirals and ice dyes, which go pretty quick. So my attention span is pretty low. And now I'm just going to use the washable marker to mark out my pattern, and I'm just going to draw on a zigzag. What I'm trying to do is use colors that are similar to the dye that I'm going to use, just to help me stay on track. Now, these are just basic guidelines. I rarely ever follow my guidelines to a T. I'm pretty sloppy when it comes to liquid dyeing, but they do help just sort of keep you on track. So for this one, I'm starting out on a dye towel. I usually do on these wigwags. It just seems easier. So Mr. Tie-Dye says that if you use a dye towel, it helps draw the dye down through the fibers in the shirt. And that's a good thing, because remember, saturation is a key. And then I'm just trying to go along the lines that I drew on. In hindsight, I wish I would have started up closer towards the green line. But whatever. Now, when I start adding my dye, I go very slow. This is sped way up. I mean, I was going so slow. And I'll go over my line maybe like once, then twice, maybe 3 times, because you don't want to get a whole bunch of blowout. Because if you add like your second color to it, they'll like blow out into each other. Blowout's probably not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like it's going to spread and saturate. So once you get that second color up against it, they'll bleed into each other, making a nice blend. You don't want to put so much on that you're saturating all the way to the back with your first pass, because you can always go back over it, but you can't take it away. So my strong navy is a little bit on the older side, and it's also thickened dye. And I wish that I wouldn't have used it. I wish I would have just not been lazy and went and mixed up a different color, because it is not, it's not playing well. And if you look at my kite string, it is completely wicking up the kite string and heading all the way down into my fuchsia red and my orange. And I notice it. And right there, a flip switched in my head, and I just did not care about this shirt anymore. I became so tired and frustrated that I just started like squirting dye on and, seriously not even caring. It broke my heart to see all that dark navy blue up into my orange. It's very upsetting, and it gets worse as I go on. So just focus on those kite string lines. So using a lighter color in the tones that you're working with, like for instance, on this side, it's the blues. So the robin's egg blue, it's what creates that really glowing effect in the center. If you think about the WigWag that I did that turned out really good, your eyes are drawn into that glowing blue and the glowing yellow. It just really draws you in and hypnotizes you. Let's see, what other color other than robin's egg? Ice blue or glacier blue would also probably be really pretty. I go pretty heavy-handed with those lighter colors though, because they seem to kind of wash away. I mean, they're just like delicate colors. And also I go always very heavy with the yellow, because yellow just disappears on me. And plus I think it looks really pretty when it mixes in with the orange and the fuchsia red. But look at all of that dark navy blue that just wicked itself all the way over there. That's not me, splashing it or anything like that. So you can imagine my frustration at this point, you guys. For those of you that follow along, you know how picky I am. Just watching this back as I'm editing it is upsetting me. Because it's like, it's not perfect anymore. So I walked away, I let it rest for 10-15 minutes, and then I got my setup, because I like to cover my projects so they can batch. So I created a rack type situation. Now this is where the project gets funny, you guys, and I don't recommend you do this behavior, but I at this point was totally over the project that I don't even know where my zigzag line is anymore, and I really am literally just spraying and praying at this point, because I figure it's already ruined from all that navy blue dye wicking over, that I just want to get it done, get it covered and get it batching. So you probably want to take your time to try to find out your zigzag, but I mean, like, I'm just going for it. I don't even care at this point. So we're going to see what happens here in a little while. So I let this shirt batch for 48 hours. At the time of recording this, it's still pretty cold in Oregon, so I like to go for the full 48 hours. That way I get maximum vibrancy and the dye has enough time to bond with the fibers. But it's your prerogative, you batch it however long you want to. So you want to start by using cold water, and that's going to rinse away any soda ash that might still be reacting within the fabric, and then increase your water up to hot and rinse until the water runs pretty much clear. Now I'll tell you, when I opened this thing up, I was really surprised at how much better it looked after it had time to batch. Like the colors were, all meshed in with each other, and the navy blue didn't seem to be that bad. So I was kind of surprised. Okay, so from here, I take it to the washing machine and I do however many hot water cycles it takes using Kirillon. And Kirillon is a professional textile detergent that I get from Dharma. I usually do about 2 hot water cycles because you got to keep in mind I'm washing many things at a time, and so that water in the machine can kind of get a little bit muddy looking, and I want to make sure to get all of that out. So when I think I've got all the dye out, I do a final hot water cycle using Millsoft, which is a professional fabric softener that I also get from Dharma Trading Company, and I have links for both of them down below in the description box, so go ahead and check that out. And then I will put it in the dryer and I will iron it, and we will come back and we'll see the results. Well, here it is, guys. Here's our center WigWag after it's been washed and dried, and I kind of actually like this shirt. I absolutely hated it at first, and I was beating myself up about it because of all that, like the dark that's down in the orange. But after ironing it and staring at it for like the last, 3 weeks, it has really grown on me. And also, after I photograph something, I see it in a totally different light. Like when I'm looking at it up close, I really see all the imperfections, but looking at it in a photograph, I see like the whole big picture. So you notice what I mean about the glowing of the robin's egg blue? It really draws your eye in, and just that little bit of yellow that lasted, it just also just creates such a glowing effect. Overall, considering how much trouble this shirt gave me, I think it turned out pretty cool. And then obviously when you make yours, slow down, do a better job than I did, and try to have fun with it, because I think it's going to turn out a lot better. So overall though, what do you guys think of this shirt? Please leave me some comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, leave a thumbs up, and click the bell and set it to all. That way you get notified of future uploads. And remember, have fun tie-dyeing.